Hello and welcome back to a new video. In today's video, we are trying to go back to the Rory Gilmore reading challenge. So as of the moment where this video will be published, I think it will have been exactly 1 year or a little bit over a year since I've published the first episode of my Rory Gilmore reading challenge, which is basically me trying to read as many books in the list of books mentioned during Gilmore Girls. And I tried starting it a year ago, but then the first episode it was fine, and then I tried to read a book that I really hated it, and then I kind of ended up putting this series of videos in the back burner. But today we are going back, so I think we are also resetting this reading challenge in a way, so let's count this as the first episode of the Rory Gilmore reading challenge, which is basically trying to read as many books on the list of books mentioned during Gilmore Girls as possible. Of course, there are some books in the list that I just won't be reading because they make zero sense to read in today, because they are either travel guides or they are hyper specific non-fiction for the time where that TV show was being filmed. But in today's episode, we are tackling two books on the list, and they are two very different books. For context, I'm filming this intro. This is, I think, the third time I try filming this intro, but it never ends up being right, so hopefully this is the intro you are seeing on the video. But the first book we will be reading is Wuthering Heights. This is not a rom-com. This is a gothic novel that was published, let me confirm exactly the year it was published. According to the little information guide at the beginning of the book, this book was published originally in 1847, and throughout the years there were some edits made to the book, I believe by Charlotte Brontë, who is Emily Bronte's sister, and there are some spelling mistakes that were fixed, but mainly Wuthering Heights, written by Emily Brontë. And in this book we follow Heathcliff and Catherine, and they are childhood friends, and after Catherine decides to marry someone else, Heathcliff creates this deranged revenge plan. And this book, it's basically about cycles of abuse and elitism in a way, and racism, and I'm going to talk more about it in the section where we're reading Wuthering Heights. And then the second book we will be reading for this video, it's a very different vibe. It was published in a very different era. This book was published in the 2000s, and it is The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Eugenides, but this book we'll talk more about it on the section dedicated to it. So let's get to the reading part of this video. I'm 7 chapters into Wuthering Heights, and so far the first chapter I really enjoyed. I thought I would love this book, but now it is not exactly what I thought based on that first chapter, but I think it still might become, if I heard this is kind of unhinged, so if Wuthering Heights becomes unhinged, I think I might enjoy it. But so far it is okay. There is nothing that is making me love it, but there is also nothing that is making me hate it. It's kind of meh. But I'm just 7 chapters in this book, so I'm going to read more. I hope it becomes unhinged. I heard about something relating to him taking her dog, and Heathcliff, he's Mr. Grumpy on steroids, and Kathy, we don't know much about her so far, but she seems like an interesting troublemaking character, and I'm curious about where the story will take us. I'll read more about it and then I'll check in again. I'm 11 chapters into Wuthering Heights and I'm bored. I thought it would get better, but it is not getting better. But we are entering on the revenge montage aspect, or the revenge part of the plotline, and I hope we get something unhinged. I hope we get something that do some kind of 180 to the plotline, because so far I'm not enjoying it. The writing style, there is nothing that is making it feel special and making me enjoy. The characters, the main characters are not the most likable, and they're not meant to be the most likable, but they're not unlikable in a way I'm enjoying it. They're just annoying so far, and the plotline is kind of, it's boring, it's meh, and I still have hope this book will do a 180 because I'm not even halfway through the book, so it still has potential. Let's go back to reading it and see if it gets better. Hopefully it gets better, because I had really high hopes about Wuthering Heights. I finished reading Wuthering Heights, and this is one of those books where I just seem to have a different opinion than the majority of people, because on Goodreads, this book has over 1 million ratings and most of them are 5 stars, and after that it is 4 stars, and just people seem to really enjoy this one. But personally, I gave this one 2.5 stars. Let me explain a little bit. So the reason why I gave this book 2.5 stars is because the first few chapters I really enjoyed. Then from chapter 3 to like chapter 5, I think, it was fine, but I wasn't enjoying it as much, and then I became bored. And a little over halfway through the book, I started liking reading and enjoying reading this book again, but then I quickly became bored again as we were approaching the end. And in the last 50 pages, I was literally counting down the pages until the end of this book. And I get what this book was trying to do. I get the message this book was trying to give us, to give the reader. I get that this is a book about cycles of abuse, of breaking this cycle of toxic love, of revenge, and the dose revenge can take on your life. I just didn't enjoy it. I was bored for the majority of this book, and there wasn't any particular moments of storytelling or something so amazing about the writing that I loved so much that convinced me to make my rating a little bit higher. I was just bored. Also, if for some reason you will still go and read this book thinking this is some sort of rom-com, that this is a romantic romance, don't. This book, very unlikable characters. Heathcliff, I don't understand how some people can romanticize Heathcliff. Like, the man literally, he kind of unalived a dog because he was jealous of Catherine. Basically, Wuthering Heights. I was going to say I get hyped, but honestly, I don't get why so many people love this book. If you are one of those people that really love it, please let me know in the comments. I'm very curious about it. Personally, it was just so just so boring, and in some ways it was different from what I read before, because Heathcliff, he's a very unique character, as well as it is Catherine, but the messages this book was giving, I read it before, and in way more entertaining ways. This is Wuthering Heights. I gave it 2.5 stars. Hopefully the next book will be better. Please, Rory Gilmore, help me find a good book. The second book we will be reading for this video is The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Eugenides. This is a fiction story that when Gilmore Girls was still being filmed, it was very much a contemporary book because it was released in 2002, but as of today it is already considered a modern classic. And basically in this book we follow this group of 5 sisters, the Lisbon sisters, who, as the name would suggest, they decide to unalive themselves. And this is a mystery that really leaves a mark on everyone around them, because all 5 sisters, they unalive themselves in a span of 1 year, apparently without any real reason. And in this book we are following our narrator, they grew up around these Lisbon sisters. They weren't necessarily friends and super close, but they went to the same school, they lived in the same neighborhood, and this incident really left a mark on everyone that lived around these sisters. These 5 sisters, they were really close to each other, in part because they don't have a big age gap between them. There is only 1 year apart between each sister. Also, they are part of this ultra-conservative, ultra-religious, and very close off family. They don't seem to have that much interaction with people outside of their household. And one thing I'm really enjoying about this book is that it feels like nothing in this story is there for no reason at all. Everything in the story adds something. The way the characters interact, the way the characters react, the way they dress, they talk, what they choose to tell our narrator or not tell our narrator, everything adds to this eerie feeling surrounding this mystery. Also, the setting, this book takes place around 1950s, 1960s in some sort of suburban town in the United States. This book so far has this eerie feeling, but also it feels like almost pop fiction in a way. But everything about this book, it is eerie, it is mysterious, and I have just been finding it super interesting. I've been also really enjoying the writing in this book. It is super easy to read, but in a really good way. It is super fast-paced, and I'm so far just really enjoying the Virgin Suicides. I am really pleasantly surprised by this book, and so far I'm exactly on page 74. I'm not 100% sure what the point of this book is, what our narrator is trying to accomplish. I think our narrator might be trying to solve these mysteries surrounding these girls, why they did what they did, and I think I got a clue. I think I know what happened to them, and I just want to go back into this book, go back to reading and figure out what happened to the Lisbon sisters. I finished reading The Virgin Suicides, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. And 4 stars is a good rating. This was a good book. I really enjoyed reading it, but I definitely think the first half of the book was better than the second half. I still really loved the writing and how the author constructed the environment, but the thing is, the first 2 chapters, they are not necessarily short, but they are a good length. And chapter 3 is a little bit longer, but it is still a good length. But chapter 4 was so long in a way that just didn't make sense to be that long. And I think this middle part of chapter 3 and chapter 4, it really derailed the pacing for this book. It was going so well, and then the pacing was just so weird starting in 2 chapters that it definitely lowered my rating for this book. And on top of that, the ending, I think I said in my first check-in about this book that I thought I knew what happened to the girls, what was the mystery. That's because starting this book, I thought this would be kind of like a mystery where you put the pieces together and figure out what happened. This book is not that. This is just a book about a guy, our narrator, who grew up around these girls, and what happened to them really shaped their lives. It was a really important chapter to their lives, and he's just telling the story of what he witnessed about these girls. And that's pretty much it. This isn't necessarily a mystery. You are not putting together the pieces for this mystery, and I just wish I knew what was the goal of this book from the start, because I thought it was something and then it turns out to be something completely different, and I just felt kind of like cheated on, lied to. I just wish that from the beginning it was more clear about what was the goal of this book. And the ending also, it was just so open-ended. I thought we would have a very clear answer to what happened, and it's just so open-ended and I didn't really like. I thought also the ending just came out of the blue. I just wish there was more development to this last chapter. So with the pacing and this ending and the fact that the goal for this book wasn't that clear from the beginning, there were so many hints about what could have happened to the girl, so many little things that could point to something completely different that I think could have worked better and would have made this book more interesting, that when I got to the ending it was just kind of underwhelming. It was just disappointing, but overall I still think this is a good book. I still really love the way the author told the story, and if you want an easy classic to read, this might be a good option if it doesn't trigger you. The title already suggests one of the major themes of this book, but this book also has depictions of self-harm and abuse, and just check the trigger warnings for this book before reading it. But it's kind of, I really enjoyed, but at the same time it was quite underwhelming. I guess that's it for this video, and I can now cross out both Wuthering Heights and The Virgin Suicides from my list of the books Rory Gilmore mentions during Gilmore Girls. And if you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If there is any particular book in the list of books Rory Gilmore mentions during the TV show and you want me to prioritize and read it soon, please let me know in the comment section, and I hope to see you for another video very soon.